Well, I feel like I've got a little bit more pep in my step today, and it's not really a great day to have more pep in your step because, the injury news was bad yesterday. Real bad. Ja Morant out for the season. Absolutely crushing blow to a Grizzlies team that waited out his 25-game suspension, got 9 games out of Ja. They were certainly a lot better with him on the court. And now are back to not having him for the rest of the year. We got reasonably okay news on Cade Cunningham, and then Tyrese Haliburton got hurt during yesterday's ball game. We got kind of okay news on Haliburton this morning as well. So I don't want to say it's all doom and gloom, but it certainly starts with doom and gloom, damn it. So this is brutal in a lot of ways. And, I said I'd try to do a better job of talking about the news of the day at the beginning of the show. And when there's big news like this, you kind of have to do it right out of the chute. Grizzlies are 13-23. They've been above 500 since Ja came back. But as you may recall, prior to his return, they were something like 3-13. No, that's not right. Let's see. They're 36 games into the season right now. They were like 7-19 or something like that. That's one too many games. I think they're like 6-19 or 7-18 or something like that. That's a team that's not getting all that close to making a play-in or playoff run. Yeah, I don't know that the Grizzlies were going to get back into it. They're 4.5 games out of a playoff spot, and they had multiple teams separating them from a play-in spot. But they had hope, and hope was going to be good enough to carry them to the end. Without hope, this sounds bleak. I'm talking about fantasy basketball still. And reality. This is reality for Ja. But without being too hyperbolic here, this potentially could change who the Grizzlies do and do not play down the stretch. Yet another reason why your head-to-head leagues should end at least 3 weeks early. Or just switch to Games Cap Roto, and then you get what you get. As we say to the kids, you get what you get, and you don't get upset. Is there some sort of ad in the wake of the Ja Morant injury? Not really. Marcus Smart was largely rostered at this point. He's someone we've talked about, and I thought with Ja around, I wasn't sure he was going to be a top 100 guy. He wasn't a top 100 guy at the beginning of the year, but now we really have no choice but to see kind of how the Marcus Smart thing develops over the next couple of weeks. What is his actual role going to be on this team? Because it'll be more of that now than it would have been if Ja was around the rest of the season. And then other stuff we saw was, other guys surfacing for a game or two here and there. Vince Williams was an example from this last ball game. We saw Santi Aldama play better for stretches. Guys that get hot, and then they get to do a little bit more. But some of that happened when both Ja and Marcus Smart were out at the same time. Shifting our attention over to Detroit, and I wanted to go through these two teams because they didn't play yesterday. This news came out on non-game days. Cade Cunningham was ruled out for only 7 to 10 days with a reevaluation at the end of that. So it's possible it ends up being a little bit longer, but still, I think everybody was worried that this was going to be like a 3-4 week thing. It might not be that long. I also don't want to spend much time on the Cade Cunningham thing because I don't think that there's an obvious pickup for Detroit with him going down for a week and a half. There's going to be more for Jaden Ivey. We've seen Alec Burks doing more lately. All these guys are fringy schedule play type of dudes. And again, if we're talking about, what if it turns out to be 2.5 weeks or something like that for Cade, this is not a bend over backwards, try to get out in front of it kind of thing. Especially not with anybody being a guaranteed replacement value guy. The team that I do want to spend some time on is the Indiana Pacers, but they did play yesterday. So instead of jumping straight into the Haliburton news, which, I mean, obviously you're picking up TJ McConnell, but we want to talk more about it a little bit more in depth. Welcome to the show, finally. This is Fantasy NBA Today, a Sports Ethos presentation. I'm your host, Dan Vespris. I'm like 80 to 90% recovered from this thing that's been going around. My older kid, poor son of a gun, he's 2 rooms over right now. He's doing some solo play. I think he might be playing a video game, honestly. Younger dude finally went back to school today. He missed, let's see, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Monday of this week with it, plus over the weekend. I mean, it's been, what an hellacious stretch it's been here in the Vespers household, because they had like a slightly stuffy nose and low-grade fever right after Christmas. My little one had it like Christmas Day and the day after, and then my big one caught it, and he had it for 3 days. Then we went to Yosemite for 4 days, came back and had one godforsaken healthy day. Actually, it was New Year's Day. We traveled. We came back from Yosemite that day. We came home on New Year's Day. And then on the 2nd, my older one started violently. And then the little one got it the next day. And anyway, I got it on Saturday. So I don't know, I guess I'm lucky that I'm back on my feet here by Tuesday. Good gravy. Anyway, you can find me over on social at Dan Vespers. I'm doing something slightly different today also. I am simulcasting the show. I don't know if it's going to change anything, but this episode is available on Twitter also. If it doesn't do anything, then I'm not going to bother doing it going forward. But I don't know. I figure it can't hurt. I have no idea what X prioritizes in now. Like, do people sign on and they see, oh, Dan is live broadcasting right now? 'Tis the answer to the age-old question, what do you get when you cross an elephant and a rhino? Elephino. Which also reminds me of that joke that they told in the original Hot Shots. You guys remember this movie? Valeria Golino, I think, was the actress. Getting that right? And she says something like, what do you do to an elephant with 3 balls? And Topper Harley, played by the great Charlie Sheen, says, I don't know. And she says, you walk him and pitch to the rhino. God, I love that movie. All right. Let's get into what happened yesterday. Boston Indy was the first game, so we can basically just jump straight into the big story of the day, which was that Tyrese Haliburton went down. It looked bad. He basically got carried off the court by teammates because he didn't want to put any pressure on a hamstring. I think it was a slip, actually. And it looked like we were looking at months. So, you know, depending on how you set expectations, the morning news on Haliburton turns out to be pretty good. The MRI revealed a grade 1 strain, which is the lowest possible strain you can have of your hamstring. He will be reevaluated in 2 weeks. My guess is that he's not ready to go at exactly that moment, but the simple fact that this wasn't like he's out a month plus, let's, piecemeal this crap together is, I think, a huge win in what was otherwise a really bad situation. So if he's being reevaluated in 2 weeks, shame of it, of course, is that the Pacers are in the middle of a pretty good scheduling stretch. They had 4 games this week, 4 games next week, 4 games a week after that, 4 games a week after that, before they finally have a 3-gamer. So games missed right now are going to be sort of coming faster and more furious. Family is everything, as those movies taught us. So you're looking at least 7 games out for Haliburton. By all accounts, he probably misses another week after that. So you're looking at like 11 games. I think that's actually what Basketball Monster has on their board right now. And that's how they got to that number, because 2 weeks is 7, 3 weeks is 11. If he's back after 11 ball games, you just sort of like chalk it up to unpleasantness, call it a win, and move on. This is a huge deal for fantasy teams, for reality too, because I have the Pacers as one of my biggest overplays of the season and season win totals. And they're going to have to work their butts off to tread water right now. They beat Boston. The only saving grace here for Indy is that they've got the Wizards next, which they should be able to win without Haliburton. They've got the Hawks after that, which is winnable, not easy. Then they're in altitude twice. Those are going to be tough ones. They got Sacramento, Portland. That's a winnable ball game. Phoenix and Denver. Those are tough. Philly, Phoenix again. Memphis without Ja. I mean, if you're looking at these 11 ball games, I think if you're the Pacers, you're looking at it and you're going, if we can go 4-7 and get Haliburton back, then we'll be 25-22. We'll still be in the thick of things. That wouldn't end us. So that's probably the way that they're looking at this next little stretch of ball games. From a fantasy standpoint, there's all kinds of stuff that this could actually mean for Indiana. The one big one is that TJ McConnell needs to be added everywhere as fast as humanly possible. Large fab budgets were blown on TJ last night. And some people were like, you blew half your fab budget for a guy that's only going to give you a month's worth of ball games. Honestly, I don't mind. Because when McConnell is the lead horse at point guard, and don't talk to me about Andrew Nembhard being the lead horse at point guard. We know how this is going to shake out. Regardless of who starts, the fantasy guy here is McConnell. TJ McConnell playing full starters minutes is a top 50 fantasy play. And you shell out for a guy like that when you know you're getting, in my opinion, at least 10 ball games out of him. That's a big, big thing. Yes, bigger in Roto than head-to-head. I get it, because with Roto, you bank it. If you get 10 games out of a guy who's like a fourth-round value over the next 3 weeks, maybe more. Again, I don't know that Haliburton's going to just drop back in and play 35 minutes in his first game back. So, like, what if you get 15 games out of McConnell? What if you actually get a full month of fourth-round value out of a pickup? That's worth spending on in Roto. That's a big, like, positive dent kind of guy. And I don't think you need me to go through, like, what has TJ McConnell done over the years to make you think that this is something that's going to happen? It's, we have many seasons of evidence that this is an easy one. In fact, I think you can even just go to a game earlier this year. Didn't Haliburton miss 1 or 2 games earlier this season? McConnell played like 26 or 28 minutes in one of those games. He had a 28-minute game, the third game of the year. I think Haliburton might have even been in for that ball game. He had 18 points, 7 boards, 5 assists, and a steal on 8 out of 13 shooting. Played 25 minutes on December 2nd, had 20 points and 11 assists. 26 minutes on December 16th, 9 points, 5 boards, 9 assists, and a steal. Doesn't hit the 3 ball. If you wanted 3-pointers, you've come to the wrong place. But look, he played 25 minutes yesterday, and Haliburton played the first quarter and a half, and still had 12, 4, and 7 with 2 steals. He's a high steals, high assists, decent rebounding point guard who shoots a high field goal percent, and the only thing you miss from a typical guard is the 3-pointer. But who cares? Big men hit threes now. I don't need my point guard to hit a bunch of threes if he's doing all those other things for me. So yes, immediate TJ McConnell ad. Spend if you gotta. Smoke if you got him. But I don't think he's the only story here. Because sure, TJ McConnell's going to step in and he's going to have the lion's share of point guard minutes. Again, Andrew Nembhard is going to play more, but all he does is get points and assists. That's not enough. You need other stuff to be a 9-cat guy. I believe that Haliburton going down negatively impacts the guys that rely on his ability to get them open. Miles Turner, probably a guy who is negatively impacted by this. I would venture to guess that Jalen Smith is negatively impacted by this. Obi Toppin is likely negatively impacted by Tyrese Haliburton being out. But there are also likely guys that are positively impacted by Haliburton being out because of an increase in usage. Typically guys that maybe wouldn't have the ball in their hand quite as much that are now going to be relied upon to go create a little bit more. McConnell's going to come in and play minutes, but he's not going to do as much as Haliburton did. So Aaron Nesmith, going to have to do more. Benedict Mathurin, going to have to do more. Buddy Hield, probably going to have to do more. I don't know about creating off the dribble. Remember when Sacramento asked him to do that, and it was not pretty? But he might have to do it. Even if it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, he might have to do it. Bruce Brown might have to do it. So I don't know that there's going to be a big starting lineup flipperoo where you probably just get McConnell or an Nembhard in for Haliburton, and then TJ ends up playing more minutes than Nembhard, no matter how they shake that out. But does this also mean that Buddy Hield is going to get more shots? Because that's the guy you need to get more shots to get him back to value. He did yesterday. He also got a steal and 2 blocks. Does this mean that Benedict Mathurin has a 3-week stretch where he's startable even outside of points leagues? I don't know. I kind of feel like I need to see what Hield and Mathurin in particular look like in the Pacers' next ball game before I'm like, yeah, go do this. If you're in a roto situation, you could pick up those guys and just leave them on your bench for a game. If you're in head-to-head, I don't know that I would spend a roster move on them. In a lot of formats, Hield is probably still on rosters because he didn't really have enough time to stink after moving to the bench before this injury went down. If you're in a really competitive, hyper-aggressive league, he probably got dropped because he was bad, straight up bad for 3 games in a row. He had lost his job to Aaron Nesmith. Didn't look like anything was going the other direction. And then, bammo, Haliburton goes down. Hield has a better ball game. So, sure. I mean, they got 3 more games left this week. You wouldn't make the move today, but starting tomorrow, then they go 4 in 6 days. So, okay. You could take a shot on it there on the head-to-head side. And again, for Roto, you can make the move early because presumably you're in a games cap. Okay. That's basically the injury news. We're 18 minutes into a show, and we haven't really gotten anything that truly happened on the box scores outside of this one thing. Celtics are as predictable as they come. Jason Tatum was resting his ankle, so Al Horford got the start. And Al Horford, when he starts, is a fantasy play. He was fine. Wasn't great. But anytime Al's going to get 30 minutes, you put him into your lineup. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Let's go to the next game on the board. I have no fantasy deltas to discuss from Thunder Wizards. None. Everything stayed exactly as it was in my mind. For those of you, and this is one of the problems with doing a daily podcast, is you sort of settle into this routine of assuming everybody's been watching and listening to your show for many years. It's a bad habit. So for those that are watching or listening today for the very first time, here's how I feel about everybody on both of these 2 teams and why nothing changes for me in their eyes. Shea, awesome. Chet, awesome. Jalen Williams was a buy low about 5 weeks ago. That bad boy is cashed in. Nobody else is a 9-cat guy on Oklahoma City. And I know what you're saying. You're going to be like, Dan, what about Nope, not Josh Giddey either. Points leagues, fine. Cat leagues, nah. Wizards, all they got to do is not get blown out. And Tyus Jones is great. Daniel Gafford is great. And Kyle Kuzma is fine. He had a 22 and 15 game, and all the best I can do is call him fine because he didn't really do anything else. No threes, no steals, no blocks, bad field goal percent. Sorry, I know it feels like I'm picking on Kyle Kuzma. Maybe I am. He'd make a lot of teams better, but he's also number 140 in 9-cat. That's not going anywhere because his percentages, turnovers, and defensive stats aren't fixing themselves. And then Jordan Poole is absolutely atrocious. He's number 182. And every time it looks like he's making even the tiniest bit of headway, he falls back. But you can't really drop him. Can you? Denny Avdia is a stream while warm guy. He was great the first 3 weeks of the season. He was then bad for 5 weeks, and now he's been good for 2 weeks again. So play him when he's good, drop him when he's bad. Seems like actually he's streaky enough where you can sort of game out the streakiness. It's not one game here, one game there. It's, gets good for a few weeks, gets bad for a few weeks. We haven't talked about Bilal Coulibaly in a while, which honestly kind of makes me happy because there was a stretch there where the Wizards were getting blown out every day, and I had to keep deflecting all of these. Dan, is it time to pick up Bilal? And I was like, no. It's not. He's only getting minutes because these are blowouts, and his fantasy game isn't there yet. And luckily, the Wizards, although lately they got blown out, I think 3 of the last 4 or something like that. But prior to that, they had been competitive for like 5 out of 6 ball games, and finally people stopped asking about Coulibaly. So let's keep going. That game was not all that interesting for fantasy purposes. Chicago beat Charlotte, took overtime to get there. I mean, we're talking zombie Hornets right now. Chicago is getting their bodies back, and I don't know that it's helping. Certainly Alex Caruso always helps. Caruso, a plus 17 in this ball game. Good God, I feel like everybody in the NBA is just wishing they could pry that dude out of Chicago. Lakers letting him walk was the dumbest. I mean, that was the dumbest roster decision. Anyway, Andre Drummond still had 21 and 15 in an unexpected mega burst. Vooch played 30 minutes. Drummond's minutes will continue to dial back as Vooch likely, I would think, moves into the starting lineup in his next ball game. Was this Andre's last stand? Probably. I know Caruso's game wasn't all that great here from a fantasy standpoint, but he's going to play a bunch anytime he's healthy, so go ahead and start him. DeRozan is up into the low 40s in 9-cat. Remember when he was in the late 60s, and I was like, this is the easiest buy low I've ever seen. And some of you were like, no, he's too old. Nope. Old doesn't make your free throw stroke go away. A lot of these guys get better at free throw shooting as they get older because they're like, well, I lost everything else. I better make my foul shots. Zach LaVine played 36 minutes, only took 9 shots. Usage has not come back for Zach lately. He's also playing through what we hear is a sore shoulder. That's a weird situation, but he's getting the playing time. Overarching thoughts. With the team basically healthy right now, the guys that you're starting are DeRozan, Vooch, Kobe White, Caruso, and probably Zach LaVine, even if this game wasn't all that impressive. Ayo is a drop. Patrick Williams is a drop. And Andre Drummond is about to be a drop. If you wanted to hold on for one more game and see what happens, I'm okay with that by and large, but I think we have a pretty good idea what's going to happen. Maybe not a perfect idea, but enough. Charlotte, I mean, everybody's out. Brandon Miller tried to play through a cold or a flu or something, and he wasn't very good, which is a shame because, like, basically anybody that's upright for this team right now has a chance at fantasy value. Terry Rozier, 18 shots and 12 free throws. He was a usage bonanza for Scary Terry. He's a sell high. It's like the most obvious sell high of all time, which makes it also the hardest sell high because everybody's like, of course you're trying to give me Terry Rozier because LaMelo Ball, Gordon Hayward, PJ Washington, Mark Williams, and on and on and on. And the whole freaking team is out for a bad Charlotte team that's bad to begin with. So yeah, Terry Rozier is going to have to play the whole damn ball game, and Nick Richards is going to have to play the whole damn ball games, and Miles Bridges is going to have to play the whole damn ball game. And Brandon Miller, if he was healthy, was probably going to have to play the whole damn ball game, but seems like he wasn't quite all the way there. And then it's like, well, someone else might get to do something. And in this one, it was a fella named Nick Smith Jr. And I can tell you with full honesty, I don't know who this dude is. Why? Because he's a rookie. He's the 27th pick in this most recent draft. He basically had not played. I think his season high was like 18 minutes. No, he had a game right before Christmas where he had 19 points. This is the second time that he's actually had like a, hey, look at that guy kind of game. So I shouldn't be a total butthole about it. But I mean, if you got the stone to pick up and play Nick Smith Jr., have at it, man. I am not coming anywhere near it because in the next ball game, it could be Bryce McGowan's or Nathan Mensah or JT Thor or Ish Smith. Nobody knows. Nobody knows. And the situation just keeps getting worse and worse. I still think this is a buy low window on LaMelo Ball. Call me crazy. Call me a riverboat gambler for a team that's almost definitely going to be shutting everybody down at the end of the year. But I feel like you get LaMelo on the cheap right now. Hey, before we get to Houston, Miami, why don't y'all take a moment to follow on Twitter at Dan Besbris, DanBesbris. Whether you're watching on YouTube, on Twitter, X, or listening after the fact, this is a perfect opportunity to come find me on social media. Again, it's at Dan Besbris, DanBesbris. Our free Sports Ethos Discord link is available in the show description. And also, check out our buddies over at manscaped.com. Promo code there is Ethos20. Ethos20 is the promo code at manscaped.com. Get 20% off your order and free shipping on the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra or whatever you decide you want at manscaped.com. Do not take my face as your example right now, because my face is the face of someone who's lived in a house where everybody except, knock on wood, my wife has caught the 5 to 7 day version of a stomach flu. I think I had this once before in life, maybe twice. This is not one that comes around. Everybody, once a year, there's the stomach thing that everybody gets, and it zips through a school or whatever, and everybody feels sick for 24 hours, and then it's just gone because it's really violent, and it's in and out, and everybody catches it because it's all in and out. This is a different one where it's just on and on and on, and you just can't get better. I'm not going to shave my face with this going on. My goal yesterday was to walk around the apartment. Shaving is a lofty bar. There was no intent. Oh, you know what? My goal today is to deal with my personal hygiene. Showering came first. I promise you all. So when you're like, why would I get Manscaped if Dan looks like a rabbi on today's show? Well, consider the context. I will be shaving my face within the next couple of days with my Manscaped stuff. They're kind enough to send it to me gratis as the host of a show. You guys would have to pay, but you can get 20% off and free shipping with promo code Ethos20 over at manscaped.com. Please do check them out today. Let's pivot back into the games. Houston lost at Miami. I mean, the Heat are I was just talking about how every team should just sell their whole farm to get Alex Caruso. Every team should literally sell every piece of equipment in the building and take all the money you found to hire Eric Spoelstra. I know he's not underrated because everybody knows that he's a great head coach. But somehow he's still a tiny bit underrated. The Heat are 21-15 right now. And their best player has had, by all accounts, a down season, Jimmy Butler. And he's only played in 24 of their 36 ball games. He's missed a third of their games so far. And they just keep winning. Tyler Hero missed how many games did he? He's only played in 18 of their 36 games. I mean, he's missed half of them. How do they do it? They're tied for the 4 seed in the Eastern Conference, running out lineups that are like Bam Adebayo and this. It's like going to a restaurant where they list the main course, and then instead of saying what comes on the side, it just says 4 sides at random. Sir, yes, waiter, I'll have the ribeye. Somewhere between medium rare and medium. Oh, I don't get choices on the sides? You're just going to throw 4 things at my face and laugh? Okay. And it works. Everybody's going to that restaurant. So in this one, Tyler Hero, Bam Adebayo. They scored 50 points on 32 shots between them. Jaime Jaquez continues to be somewhere between decent and good. Kevin Love has gray-bearded his way to a fantastic streaming run right now. Duncan Robinson, sometimes good, sometimes terrible. When he's good, he plays. When he's not, he doesn't. I don't understand it. I mean, I watch it. They're just like the Heat. Watching the Heat play, and I'm not a huge hockey fan, but watching the Heat play kind of reminds me of hockey in the way that everything is tethered. Everybody's tethered. It's like a dance with that team. It doesn't matter who's out there. You just drop a new dude in, and they know the dance. The understudy knows the dance. They're impressive, man. The Heat are which of course at the same, like, you can be impressed and at the same time a little bit sad about the fact that if they had one more truly special player on that team, they could probably win the championship. I hope they take a swing. Go get somebody, Miami. Anyway, as far as fantasy goes, let's talk about the fantasy ramifications of this game. There were very few. Tari Eason was still out, and nobody's really shown an inclination to fill in for him on the Houston side. So you had a whole lot of Freddie VanVleet and Alperen Şengün. Cam Whitmore looks like he's going to have some pretty good fantasy games, but his minutes aren't high enough yet. Jae'Sean Tate has the minutes, but isn't doing anything for fantasy. Jalen Green is terrible. Jabari Smith is up and down, but he's a guy who's generally started. Moving on to the Heat side. Kyle Lowry is not someone I'm trusting as a fill-in. He didn't make it through this ball game anyway. I think he was dealing with a cold, and then he hurt a hand or something like that. Josh Richardson and Duncan Robinson played well off the bench. I'm not trusting the bench guys right now. My mainstream is Jaime Jaquez, who people are like, oh, he might still be good with Butler back. Yeah, he might, actually. He could be. They could slide one of those dudes up to power forward, so you would never pre-drop there. And then I don't know how he's doing, but Kevin Love is a stream right now. If Caleb Martin ever shows up, then this gets a little bit funky again, but he ain't there right now. Utah beat Milwaukee soundly beat Milwaukee 132-116. This game actually was a bigger blowout than that. Utah's just mixing and matching right now. And rather than get into each individual player, because, like, look, Chris Dunn had a big ball game here. Jordan Clarkson played well in this one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I would argue that like 7 to 8 guys had serviceable fantasy lines. And not all of those guys were the dudes who played bigger minutes in this ball game. Chris Dunn, 24 minutes. He had 13 assists. Colin Sexton, 18 minutes. He had 19 points, 3 threes, 3 assists, and a steal. Keontae George had 19 points. They just shot the crap out of the ball. 33 assists and shot the crap out of the ball. Let's try to make it simple. Who are the Jazz that I'm starting every night, meaning the Roto Games Cap level? Those of you that are uninitiated, the top level for me is someone I would use against a Roto Games Cap. So that's level 1. So that's basically like all formats all the time. Those guys on the Jazz right now are obviously Lauri Markkanen, Colin Sexton, and Walker Kessler. Because those guys have either very good fantasy game where they don't need a giant number of minutes to get it, or are getting consistent minutes or some combination thereof. The next tier down for me are guys that I would call head-to-head only, but maybe not Roto. So in this case, that might be someone like a Kelly Olynyk, who's put up pretty well-rounded lines lately, but not reliably enough to use against a games cap. But he's not hurting you anywhere, so he's been decent enough for head-to-head. John Collins, you could probably play on head-to-head because he's been fine but unspectacular, more of like a plodding kind of line. Jordan Clarkson is a stream while warm guy. That's kind of the next level down where you can play him in any format, but only when he's on a heater. And then below that is probably just a guy that you're not playing. So the 3 I like on Utah, as I mentioned, Markkanen, Sexton, and Kessler. And then there's some other guys that are sort of slotted underneath that, but that's where I feel about that team. Milwaukee was down both point guards. No Damian Lillard, no campaign. Andre Jackson Jr. got the start. You don't have to worry about that. More importantly, when Dame is out, that means there's probably enough shots for someone like a Malik Beasley to maybe get back over the cut line for a game. And that's another level, is injury replacement. Beasley is injury replacement level / 3-point streamer. But when Dame is in there, he's not getting enough shots and he's not doing enough things besides just taking 3-pointers. And that's where he sits. And that's really kind of the only, I think, piece of information we learned from this game on the Milwaukee side. Let's go ahead and tackle the last one. Phoenix got spanked by the Clippers. This was a re-education. Phoenix has problems. You're seeing Twitter getting fussy right now about how they need to blow it up. I would try to remind Suns fans that Phoenix has had their 3 stars together for what, 3 ball games? Because remember, Kevin Durant missed a couple games, and then it was just Beal and Booker. And there were some stretches in there where it was just Booker, and there were some stretches in there where it was just KD. They're still very much, I mean, I know they're 37 games into the season, but they're basically like, you have to treat this like it's November 1st for Phoenix. We have no idea what they are. I don't think they're going to play very much defense, but at some point, offensively, this team's going to be pretty freaking good. I'm holding Grayson Allen. That's literally the only fantasy note on this game. Possible buy low on Bradley Beal because you had that like adrenaline spike when he came back. Now his legs are a little jiggly. And then he'll settle in. He'll get his sea legs and he'll be okay. I don't know that maybe you could pull off a buy low. If you get him for like 100 range guy. And then the Clippers. This is one of the Ivica Zubats. By the way, Ivica Zubats is now a member of the Stream While Warm department because he runs very hot and cold. He puts up these 2 or 3 big games in a row. He has a week where he's like top 50 and then drops off a cliff. He's hot right now. So have at it. Otherwise, no big surprises. The 3 main dudes. Kawhi had 6 defensive stats. Yay. James Harden, double-doubled. Yay. Paul George, 25 and 7. Yay-ish. I didn't think the Clippers were going to be this much of a fantasy gold mine. I have a lot of Kawhi and Harden on my fantasy teams because I felt they were just getting drafted too late, and by and large, that's worked out very well. I didn't have much Paul George, and he's number 12. It's crazy. The Clippers got 3 guys on their team inside the top 16 in 9-cat. How about them apples? All right, that's your recap. I'm sorry that everybody's hurt. That's, man, rough go yesterday. Rough go. Couple of quick notes from the chat room. A lot of the folks that are saying that they're happy to have me back. Thank you. I appreciate it. It was unpleasant. Doesn't even begin to tell the story. Brandon Marcus, host, one of the 2 hosts, I should say, of our fantastic Clippers podcast here at Sports Ethos Clippers. What type of dude are you targeting for Terry Rozier? That's a great question because I don't think you're going to be able to really fool anyone into thinking that this is who Rozier is. He's number 26 in 9-cap, but he's at 19 shots, 5 free throws, and 7 assists. Like, he's involved in everything they're doing. And at some point, LaMelo Ball is going to come back, and those numbers are going to take a bit of a nosedive. And then presumably you'll get every guys come back too for Charlotte. Also, Rozier in a team this bad, very much a threat to get moved. It's not a guarantee. Nothing is a guarantee in life. I think if you can lock in a top 50 level guy coming back, I would do it. I think if the best return you're going to get is like 65, I don't think I would. I think I'd rather just ride out the Rozier thing and see how it goes. And, if it hurts later and you're like, damn it, someone was going to give me Keegan Murray. Okay, fine. Like maybe that ends up being something you lose in your head-to-head playoffs on. But for now, and you know me, I'm all roto games capping and tallying up what he's doing. I don't think that I would take something back that's that low. I think I would want to aim a little bit higher. Shining Knight asks if Bojan Bogdanovic is going to get a boost with Cade Cunningham out. Yeah, I mean, he probably takes an extra shot or 2, so it doesn't hurt. It's a good question. TJ McConnell or Benedict Mathurin on the pickup? TJ. Should I drop Brandon Podziemski to burn a waiver on TJ McConnell? Yeah, I think I would, actually. I think Podziemski, as much as I like him and I like his fantasy game, I do think he's kind of fatiguing a little bit. And the Warriors are trying something new basically every ball game. And at some point, Draymond's going to come back. And I know you're like, but he's a big guy. It's going to impact everybody because the Warriors are just going to slide guys up and down. The only thing holding me back from saying hard yes on this is the Chris Paul injury. Because Chris Paul's out a month, and so those minutes are going to have to go someplace. And it does feel like Podziemski's the guy that should get some of them. But we also know that TJ McConnell is going to go big for 3 weeks. I got to go big, I think. If you're asking about trade questions, I'm not doing those on a live show. We'll have a trades show. In fact, I have an idea of just doing a show that's exclusively trades at some point. It won't be today, and it probably won't be this week unless everybody magically gets healthy in the next 24 hours. Then maybe. So let's see. When is LaMelo Ball coming back? I wish I knew for sure. I think it's going to be in the next 2 weeks, and we haven't heard anything, which means this is your last chance to buy low. Because as soon as there's a timeline on him, whoever's been holding on this whole time is not about to move on. Let's see here. Yeah, Chris Dunn in 24 minutes is solid. If someone could legitimately tell me that Chris Dunn was going to get 24 minutes every night, I would have him on every damn fantasy team. But we've seen all of this stuff. And it's been like 12 minutes, 17 minutes, 24 minutes. Hooray! And then back down to like 14 again. Where do you see Dame the rest of the season? Well, probably not too far from where he is right now. I think he's number 18 in 9-cat on the boards I'm looking at. And he's been pretty consistently in that range. I do still think that there's a heater coming where he shoots 50% for like 5 or 6 games in a row, just like a real mega heater Dame version. And that'll push him up a few slots. But, top 18 feels pretty reasonable on Lillard. And what is Jason Tatum's trade value? This is a tough one because somebody probably drafted him at like 7, and then he was at 36 last 2 weeks ago. Now he's back up to number 23 because obviously he wasn't going to shoot 79% at the free throw line all year. I think he still moves a little higher than this. He's at 80.7%. I know this is like, it's really math. It's very hair splitty. But if Tatum just continues to do exactly what he's doing in everything besides free throws, and the free throws go from right now being a net neutral, which again, 2 weeks ago was a small negative. Now they're at neutral, and it becomes a small to medium positive, get him up to like 84, 85%. He will move another 4, 5, 6 slots up the board. So I think Jason Tatum is probably inside the top 20, inside the top 18, just like Dame we were talking about a minute ago as the season goes. But in terms of trade value, if you drafted him at 7, you probably don't want to take back someone who's 20. And if you're trying to buy on him, you're probably trying to do so with someone that's near where he is right now. So I don't know that it's ever going to link up. That's why I had Tatum on the buy low board when he was at 36, because at that point I was like, you know what? You might be able to get him for someone ranked near 20, like Kristaps Porzingis or Tyrese Maxey, where I think these are guys that maybe kind of pass in the night a little bit. And now I don't think that's going to get it done anymore. Now you'd have to go up the board and you'd have to give up Dame or Harden or Kyrie or Paul George. And do you want to? Maybe. I mean, Tatum's healthier than some of those guys, but like, remember when everybody was upset about Kyrie Irving because he was like number 25? He's number 14 per game and climbing. All right, let's wrap it up. Why? Because I'm hoping that I can do another show this afternoon. What show? I don't know, because we did a buy low on Friday. So it feels like doing another one would be a little bit dumb this soon. But I have all these ideas for shows that I want to do. The Trade Raiders show that I just mentioned earlier in this one. I really want to do, I haven't done a sell high in a while. Maybe that's the one to just ease back into it. But I really want to get a second show going this afternoon. And I also wanted to take some time to, again, shout out the Believe Sports Network for bringing us aboard. Maybe that'll happen over on social. Anyway, they've been amazing so far. Here's one last question. Booker owner, is it time to panic and sell? I watched him play. He is always double teamed. Listen, if I talk about Devin Booker, I'm going to get accused of being a little bit of a negative Nancy. And I don't want people to like, Dan, you're always down on Booker. I just never thought he was going to be number 12, which is basically what his ADP was. And now he's number 29 in 9Cat. It's not that he's been bad. He's still averaging 26 points, 7.8 assists, 5 boards, 2 threes, like a lot of really good stuff. It's two things going on. How hard it is to be a top 12 pick or top 12 fantasy player, because the pinball numbers guys are putting up at the top of the board this year is truly insane. They're astronomical. But also that there are little things. It's nitpicky, but there are little things in Devin Booker's fantasy game that aren't going away no matter how much he's given. Those little things are, he's not that big of a three-point guy. It feels like he is because he scores a lot, but 2.1 right now is pretty high for him. And the assists that were at like 8 and change, you always knew those were going to start to come down as his teammates got healthier. And the steals that were at like 1.2, you knew those were coming down, and the blocks are coming down. And I really don't want this to seem like I'm picking on him, but what did I say during draft season? I said Devin Booker is going to lose some usage, and he's probably going to be more in the 20s than the teens. And he is now. So no, I don't think it's time to panic. I think this 20-something iteration of Devin Booker is probably more what we should have expected from the outset, but he got hurt immediately. And then KD got hurt. And so it was just like Booker against the universe. And of course he was going to put up 30 points and 10 assists because he was playing with a bunch of Joe Schmoes. And even the first wave of Joe Schmoes got hurt. Grayson Allen was out for a while and Eric Gordon missed a couple of ball games. Now you're really like, who were these guys? Team's getting healthy. When they start to figure out how to play together, he shouldn't have to do as much every game. That's okay. This was the handicap from the outset. He was overperforming early because the situation was better early. Okay, I'm at Dan Vespers over on Twitter. Some of you might even be watching on Twitter right now. I have no idea if that was useful. If you are someone who watched live on Twitter X, send me a note to let me know that it was useful and improved your experience some way. If nobody says anything, I'll probably just go back to putting it on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, and all that good stuff. But I figured it can't hurt to have it in more places. You know, more Dan. Who doesn't want more Dan talking about his family's digestive problems? Have a great middle of your Tuesday. Again, I'm hoping that we can do another show this afternoon. Stay tuned for that. Make sure to like and subscribe, however you're taking in the stuff, and that way you'll know if we've got another show in the afternoon. If you ask me questions in the chat room I didn't get to, things like trade questions, whatever, you can put them in the comments. Or you can wait, because at some point here, I'm going to do a Trade Raider show, and I kind of want you guys to have a whole bunch in the hopper ready to go. Keep them ready to go. All right, later for now, everybody. We'll talk to you.